Okay, aquí tenemos una foto con un cubo de plástico que no es transparente.
Here we got a snowed out place where we've got a bucket, which is not transparent.
Pero dentro hemos hecho nanoplantas y nanocubrimientos de zinc y cobre.
We have made nano feeding compounds and copper and zinc nano ganses.
En el invierno hemos puesto el cubo, así como se ve en la imagen, y no se ha roto por el frío que normalmente esto pasa.
As you can see, this has water inside and it hasn't congealed and it hasn't broken.
Vamos a pasar a la otra para ver qué es posible en la dimensión del plasma.
Here we show something where you could appreciate something new in the dimension of plasma.
Y la planta ya está verde y muy, muy hermosa.
This plant is nice and green.
Y eso con una nieve de casi 30 centímetros. Se ve en lo
And
anterior.
we have had over 30 centimeters of snow. Yeah.
Pero lo que podemos ver aquí ya no estamos hablando de la fotosíntesis.
We're not talking about the photosynthesis.
Estamos hablando de los campos del carbono normalmente, y la planta se ha alimentado sin necesidad de tener luz y calor.
As you can see, this plant is fed from the carbon fields of the plasma fields with no sun or other elements.
Eso es una foto más reciente, no está muy bien, pero tenemos el vídeo que está hecho hoy.
As you can see, the bucket was on top of the plant, and this picture is or video is from today.
Vamos a ver la diferencia entre la planta, que ya el cubo está subido por la misma planta,
Here you will be able to appreciate the difference between what we saw and this one.
y la sorpresa es que la planta está florecida en el cubo.
And as you can see, it has flowered inside the bucket.
Su tamaño es muy, muy diferente de todo lo que hay alrededor.
Its size is pretty different to what is around this plant.
Y más de eso, en esa zona hemos trabajado con plasma y vamos a ver cómo se va en el medio natural. Pero aquí es más importante, ya se está regalando sus semillas en ese tiempo que eso ya no es posible sin plasma.
And here you can appreciate it's already giving the seeds, which you normally won't have if you don't have the plasma present.
Aquí es el tamaño que está en la naturaleza, el tamaño normal de las plantas. Entre las
This is
comillas, normal.
the normal size of the plants, these plants.
Eso es la diferencia de utilizar el plasma.
Here you can appreciate the difference when we use plasma.
Y ahora sí tenemos otra confirmación que no es por la fotosíntesis.
And here we can confirm this hasn't been produced by photosynthesis.
Eso es lo que quería compartir, y al final vamos a hacerlo con lo del carbono, 12, 13, 14 hasta 60, y qué significa los domos y los...
Later on, we'll show you how the different types of carbon, be it 12, 14, or even 60, how all this works on nature.
Gracias por poder compartir eso. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing all this with.
Well, thank you, Gianni. So that grew in complete darkness, as I understand.
Yes, Mark.
Without the photosynthesis, just through the fields.
Yes. Solo los campos.
And now it's ready to eat.
Now, Rick, ya no vamos a comerlos. Porque con esa nueva línea de comunicación ya no necesitamos matar a nadie para comer.
We won't be eating them, as now we're learning we don't have to eat to survive.
Ah, okay.
Podemos crear nuestra comida en otro modo, pero también podemos alimentarnos directamente.
You can feed in a direct manner. And I would add also, you were talking about not breathing, Mark. And I have mentioned several times.
Yes, I
find myself not breathing.
I was going to ask you about that, John. Mr. Kesh said we went from water breathers to air breathers in a moment of time.
Yeah, exactly. But that's when you were born. That's why in Russia, you're born underwater and you don't need to breathe. The kid swims under the water, and then whenever he pleases, he pokes his head out and has a good laugh.
So how is Gianni going to absorb the energies from this plant or other plants without eating it?
¿Comprendiste?
Sí, pero por favor, también al español, John.
Sí, Mark pregunta, ¿cómo es que vas a aprovechar la nutrición de estas plantas sin tener que comerlas?
Pues ya vamos a utilizar la línea de comunicación, lo que se llama carbón 14.
We will be using the communication between the plant and ourselves through the carbon 14.
La mayoría de las plantas en ese mundo tiene el carbón como la... Pero es carbón 12. Lo dicho que la mayoría de las plantas tiene la línea de comunicación basada en el carbono 12.
The majority of the plants communicate through carbon 12, not 14.
Pero también tiene el carbono 13 y 14.
They also have the 13 and 14, carbon 13 and 14.
El mismo carbono, pero intensidades diferentes.
It's the same carbon that it has a different intensity or power or field.
También en cuerpo nuestro tenemos una proporción de carbón 14.
In our bodies, we do have part of carbon in a carbon 14 way.
Y como lo comprendo yo ahora, hoy en día, es que podemos establecer la línea de comunicación, nuestro carbón 14, con lo del alma vertical o plantas.
And now we're starting to learn how with the carbon 14, we have this connection with the plants and the media.
Pero por mi comprensión es solo la interfaz, porque normalmente vamos a pasar al carbón 60 y más allá.
And as far as I gather, it's the interface between us and plants, but we'll continue up to carbon 60 and farther.
Eso es lo que he comprendido y por eso comemos muy, muy poquito.
That's why here we eat very, very little amount of
pero solo disfrutar del gusto esa vez sin matar.
The correct way is to what's the word now? Disfrutar.
Disfrutar es enjoy.
Enjoy, yes. Yeah, yeah, right. We have to enjoy what we taste when we eat, not eat because we need to eat for filling our bellies.
Y claro, hay una diferencia entre alimentarnos directamente del campo. Es muy intenso, es completo.
There's a big difference in between feeding off the fields. It's much more, very more intense and complete.
Pero también a veces me gusta tomar un poquito con la fisicalidad.
But many a time I also like to have a go at physicality.
Yo regalo a la planta, al hombre vertical de mi alma, él me regala una parte de sí.
I give to the plants and they give us back some of their fields and physicality.
Es otra línea de comunicación que ahora aprendemos a utilizarla.
This is a new communication we are learning from Mr. Kesh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gianni. I remember Mr. Kesh saying if we can become more humble than the lamb, we can absorb the fields of the lamb without killing it. I don't know if don't think I've done that yet, but apparently there is also a humble factor in this, Gianni.
También hay otra línea para hacer esa comunicación. Hay otro método.
There is another method we could do this.
Y por ejemplo, si metes una semilla dentro de la boca y lo vas a humectar con la saliva.
If you get hold of a seed and put it under your tongue and moisture it with your saliva.
Yes.
Ya cuando va a crecer, la línea de comunicación ya está establecida.
And this is to connect yourself with a seed. And this is a very old tradition. Old agriculturists used to do this, put the seeds under their tongue for a while and then plant it. And there's a big difference. There's a communication between the plant through the seed and yourself.
En ese modo ya no importa la distancia porque me puedo conectar con el hombre vertical, con la planta de cualquier rincón del mundo o más allá.
Doing this, we have a direct connection. There's no distance between the plants and ourselves.
Ya no hace falta matar o romper o sacar algunas cosas.
There's no need to kill or maim the plants to be able to feed us ourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Yes, and if I could, I'll just share the picture that Gianni had shared with us of this winter wheat that they planted. And it looks like, just a moment, I'll share the screen here. This was done last fall, I believe, plasmatizing the seeds on, as I understand it, it was over 100 hectares of land.
Yes, it's correctly. 80 hectáreas de trigo.
I can see the traces of the snow on the sides over here and over here. So most of the field has now melted. Beautiful, lush, very tasty looking. And I know,
Yes,
yeah, I know people will be eating this, but growing it with the plasmatic method also becomes the sole elevator. Mr. Kesh told us about that with the wine, and the other food that was grown plasmatically actually becomes a elevation for the soul. And I think in the longer term, it will actually reduce or make us aware of actually what we're doing in the longer term. So yes, we'll continue eating. People will continue eating until they understand more. But in this process of taking in, I believe, plasmatically grown fruits, vegetables, plants, and the others, you'll come to a realization of what you're actually doing by physically consuming it. And that will lead to the next step of just absorbing the fields, perhaps. But very beautiful application, Gianni. I mean, this is and a hectare is like isn't it like an acre or two, John? Or is
No, it's I think it's just over 4 acres into a hectare.
so this is huge, and this looks like the Ukraine in a way, but it's more Moldova.
¿En
Yes,
Moldavia?
Moldavia es a unos 150, esa zona es cerca de Ucrania, a unos, digamos, 350 metros.
We're only 350 meters away from Ukraine, or
And-
Ukraine.
And these plots are without fertilizer and they're without pesticides, as I understand it. Yes?
Yeah.
Yes, Mark. Solo hemos utilizado el plasma. Solo.
We have only used plasma.
Pero utilizando los 3 niveles de comunicación.
We have used the 3 different levels of communication with the plants and seeds.
Los nanos materiales que hemos obtenido de las plantas de la zona, de la misma zona.
These being the nano components, GANS water and fields, no?
Yes, nanoplantas, John, GANS water y las semillas plasmatizadas. 3 líneas de comunicación. ¿Puedes
Yes,
repetir, por favor?
Yeah, ya lo había dicho, pero lo vuelvo a repetir. Here we got the connection with the GANSes, the plasma water or GANS water, and the seeds.
Y también los nanos materiales de plantas, John.
Sí, los GANSes o nanomateriales.
No es lo
Also
mismo.
using the GANSes made out of the original plants.
Los nanos materiales, que también son plasma, tienen una intensidad. El aquaplasma tiene otra, el GANS y el aminoácido, el otra. Son 3 líneas de comunicación.
These 3 different communication lines have different levels of intensity or energy.
Y todo eso hemos obtenido, el dinero fue menos de $100.
We have only spent less than $100 for these 80 hectares.
Y lo que se ve en el campo, eso es después de unos 35 centímetros de nieve.
And this is just after having about 35 centimeters of snow, over a foot of snow in the winter.
Pero las plantas que están ya tratadas con plasma ya no se congelan como las otras.
And these plants won't freeze like other plants do normally.
Thank you, Mark.
Beautiful work,
Yeah.
as we always say, Gianni. And of course, the farmers appear to be happier as well. We saw some of the pictures or the video you showed when you were actually plasmatizing the seeds. All of the pesticides and everything that normally accompanies the seeds or that you have to spread causes a lot of problems for the farmer. You've also reduced the pollution, the poisoning of the planet with all the runoffs of the pesticides and the fungicides and the rest of it, fertilizers and so on. These are so you've done a beautiful work here and reducing the, as you showed with the cows, reduction in input, but yet dramatic increases in output using the plasma technology.
Yeah, the land here, the hectares, the 80 hectares would be about 350 acres.
That's huge. Beautiful work for less than $100. Did he say less than $100?
Exactly.
En realidad es mucho menos, pero es
In reality, it's very much less than that, but we got to give us some sort of a number.
Yes.
porque con $100 hemos hecho el plasma para 250 hectáreas.
With $100, we've
más.
done the plasma for 150 hectares.
Beautiful. And I know he said he was going to show some other plots of other farmers that are growing without the plasma, and apparently they look like they're lagging behind in a way. I
Yes,
haven't
Mark,
seen the pictures, but I know you said you'd probably present them maybe in the reactor group. So anyone,
yes.
Yep, everyone's invited. Gianni usually stops into the reactor group and has beautiful things like this to show us week after week after week, whether it's on a farm for growing agriculture, whether it's on a animal husbandry, many other beautiful applications that you can see. Gianni is actually really doing one of the best jobs I've seen working with the plasma. He's living the plasma.
Yes. Thank you, Mark. I living in the dimension of plasma.
Yeah, this is what Mr. Kesh is saying. We can open many new dimensions for all of us to understand more of our own capabilities. But the agriculture is a soul elevator, and through that elevation, I think it'll actually reduce the amount of consumption.
Yes. Eso es lo que pasa cuando una planta crece feliz. Ya no hace falta comer muy poco porque ya te llenas de esa felicidad de los campos. La intensidad de los campos.
You manage this when the plants grow in a joyful way, and they live and interact with you in a different way.
Yes.
Y estos campos se están transmitiendo a otras plantas.
And these plants are also interacting with other plants from the neighbors.
Y poco a poco ya tenemos el planeta en equilibrio. Thank you.
In the near future, we'll have the whole planet living in equilibrium.
It's a beautiful green, and it just doesn't look like there's any area that's lacking at all here. They all look like they're working together and quite happy. Beautiful.
I remember Mr. Keshe told us that in Russia they were planting the wheat under the snow.
Yes, it was growing in the snow conditions. And we see the snow right on the boundaries here. So it just recently has, not all of it has even melted away. And this was planted last October or November. I was never familiar with winter. They call this winter wheat. It's planted in the fall and then it pops up in the spring. But this is much more profound than the other farmers in the area that are using the standard pesticides and fertilizers on their crops. And we could see the pictures of the farmers that you showed us were quite happy when they were plasmatizing the seeds. I remember this. Thank you, Gianni.
Mark, por los hechos, fuimos invitados a una televisión de Rumanía y ya sabe toda la Rumanía lo que se hace ahí.
We were invited over to a TV station, and now the whole of Romania has heard of all this evolution.
Y también hemos hecho más culturas, no solo del trigo, pero poco a poco, cuando voy a pasar, voy a compartir todo del sitio.
In the near future, I'll share all the different experiences we have had with the agriculture.
Estamos a disposición de todos los que quieren para compartir todo eso con todas las explicaciones y todo lo que hemos hecho. Thank you.
We're offering this knowledge for whoever is needing it to be able to teach it elsewhere.
Perfecto. Beautiful. So very simply, but again, I think there was about 300 pounds of seeds per acre, something along, or per hectare, perhaps. I think that they plasmatized. So again,
250 kilos por hectárea.
250 kilograms per hectare.
of seed.
Yes, of
Yeah.
seed.
Wow.
Of seed.
So that was a big
Cuando normalmente
project.
se usa mucho más, ¿no?
Sí.
Normally they use very much more quantities of seeds for planting.
Oh, because
Y-
of the failure. Yes.
De 250 semillas va a salir a un hectárea unos 9.000 kilos.
This will produce about 9 tons of wheat.
Eso es el regalo que hace la naturaleza con nosotros.
This is a nice present that nature is giving us.
So the farmer must have tipped his hat in a way to you, Gianni, and to your team.
El que tiene la granja debe estar agradeciéndote en demasía.
Yeah.
Pues está muy feliz porque todas las químicas ya no utilizan nada y los costos para la producción y todo son muy pequeños. Ni se puede creer eso.
He's very happy because it's very much cheaper to produce this and it will produce very much more fodder
Porque
Well,
no
for us,
hace,
but for the animals.
no hace falta ir muchas veces con la tractora, no se consuma combustible. No hace falta entrar en el campo, así que ya del principio es como fantástico lo que pasa. Pero no, es normal, natural.
He'll use less seeds and won't have to use his tractor many a time. He'll economize in petrol.
right. Now, will the seeds reproduce, Gianni, after this season? Will they, I know in India, Mr. Kesh said the number one reason for suicide, the farmers have a very high suicide rate because they need to borrow money to buy the seeds and the other inputs that they need. And by the end of the year, they have very little, almost cannot even feed their families with the profit. So are these seeds able to reproduce themselves, or are they genetically modified?
No,
Well,
eso no es trigo que no está modificado. Es un tipo de trigo muy viejo.
this is a very old seedling which we use. Our friends Monsanto, they make their own seeds that won't last for over a year. The next year they're useless.
Right.
No, aquí es the farm is es un sitio para experimentar, así que se puede utilizar cualquier cosa.
This is for experimental reasons, so we could experiment with anything, but here we're having very good results, as you can see.
How long has the farmer been in business farming? This farmer.
¿Hace cuánto que este agricultor está trabajando en la agricultura?
Pues es ingeniero agricultor y trabaja más de 30 años en la agricultura.
He's an agricultural engineer and has been working for over 30 years in this zone.
Antes de encontrarse con nosotros, utilizaba las químicas, pero en un porcentaje de 10% de como utilizaba todos.
Before knowing us, he used to use only 10% of the chemicals that other people use, and now he's changed completely, gone to zero with us.
Y claro, estaba en el camino y por eso encontró la dimensión del plasma.
He's on the wayside, so now he has found the road to plasma.
En Plasma Reactor Group tenemos a Mijaela y Laurencio, que son los dueños de esa farm, y también explica a ellos un poco por qué lo he hecho.
In the plasma group, the owners of these lands are in our group, and that's why they've been testing all this out with us.
Fue en el mes de octubre, noviembre, cuando hemos sembrado. Si os acordáis.
Last October, November, we sowed these lands.
So these plants will be ready for harvest when?
¿Cuándo van a poder cultivar?
Pues en el mes de junio, por ahí, y después vamos a sembrar otras cosas.
We'll be able to pick up
The grains?
En el mes de junio, John, vamos
yeah.
a
No,
recoger.
sí, pero la palabra, pero I'm short of the words many a time. I can't remember them. But in June, they'll be not sowing, but cultivating this wheat and preparing the land for some other production.
Pues después de recoger el trigo, John, solo vamos a venir con otras semillas plasmatizadas y sembrarla, nada más. El terreno está preparado.
Yeah, we don't have to prepare the land. We'll pick up the wheat and come along with new other seeds, with not having to remove plow the land.
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful work. Yes, you've shown professionally educated people that work with animals. They couldn't find a solution. You showed them a solution with the plasma technology, and now with the farming. I'm doing it just a little in my house, but I know it can be replicated. But those are beautiful testimonials we should have from the farmer, and also the one with the PhD that has the 30 or 40 milking cows. They probably already have those testimonials, but very beautiful to hear it right from the farmer. And what a surprise that this could be possible with so much less input. And look at the beauty that's been created here.
También el médico que tiene la farm de cow, las granjas donde tiene las vacas, ha hecho algunas medidas de los campos del aquaplasma que tiene en el pozo.
The veterinarian that tends the cows has also been testing the plasma and the water and all the different reactions with cattle.
Y en la próxima semana me voy otra vez en el sitio para completar el nivel 3.
Next week I'll be going over to this place again, so I can complete all the learnings from what we have done.
En los 7 meses ha crecido la producción de leche con 2 litros por cada vaca, pero la calidad unas 100 veces.
The milkman has told us that his production has increased by 2 liters a cow, but the quality of the milk is 100 times better.
Lo mismo pasa con las abejas, con las cabras, con todo. Lo mismo.
This is also happening with the bees,
Yes.
and all the different
The
animals.
goats. Yep.
Yeah.
Eso es la dimensión del plasma. Thank you.
This is the dimension plasma.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much, Gianni, for sharing. I think it's encouraged all of us, and especially any farmers or veterinarians that are listening. There are many more solutions than you've been taught, and they're so much easier and less expensive, and again, very productive ways to implement the plasma into so many different situations. Again, it has this intelligence of bringing a beautiful balance into any situation. So it has a consciousness, it has a bringing of a balance of
Y
feelings.
Mark, los que con quien trabajamos, los talleres son libres, todos.
We are
John?
giving this knowledge away freely to all the farmers,
Yes.
vets.
Pero siempre va a entrar algunos fondos en la fundación, pero sin nombre.
We'll always contribute with some anonymous funds towards the foundation.
Porque también tenemos que devolver a la fundación de donde hemos encontrado la solución, el método. Thank
We
you.
all have to contribute with the foundation,
Yes.
which has been giving us all this knowledge in a very nice way.
Yes, as Mr. Kesh said, he could have sold out years and years ago for billions and billions of dollars and this technology, and then none of us would have understood any of this. And so we're very thankful, and we all should support the foundation in whatever way you can, financially or doing other work. It's not always money, but Mr. Kesh says we always take in and then we turn it around to develop more. It's almost like this process of giving and receiving, that you give and you receive, and then so you can give more. And look at the beautiful work Gianni is doing.
Y también ya aparecieron los espacios libres como el plasma.
There have also appeared some new lands which are being
No,
offered.
espacios libres porque el primero es en la centro de la ciudad, Târgu.
No entiendo el concepto que querés vertir.
Es un espacio que un dueño le ha regalado para utilizarlo. Puesto a la disposición sin ninguna pretensión.
The owners of some of these lands have been offered to be able to give us or have the opportunity to show all this to everybody.
Excellent.
En ese caso tenemos en el centro de la ciudad un espacio donde hacemos 3 días cada mes talleres del plasma.
In the center of the city, we got a place where 3 times a month we could show people the results we're having.
Estamos trabajando sin dinero, solo regalar y recibir.
We're not working with money. We're giving away a lot of seeds to people and a lot of knowledge in this place in the center of the city.
Los que participan de otras ciudades o otros países tienen ya todo asegurado sin tener que pagar, sino el transporte para llegar ahí.
Other countries or places can require our knowledge, can just invite us over. They just have to cater for our travel.
Nosotros así, en ese modo, vivimos de mucho tiempo. Es posible.
Yes, why would they refuse? I'm sure you've inspired the whole of Moldova with these pictures, and others around the world. That needs to go into some sort of farming publication. Many of them will probably laugh and say, this is impossible. I think they're kidding us, but as we get the testimony of the actual farmers and what it's done, what a beautiful job, Gianni. Thank you, Mr. Kesh. Thank you, Gianni, and your team.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to the workshop and anything else, Gianni, you want to share with us today?
Mark, sí, al final del taller vamos a hablar del domo y la línea de comunicación en el domo.
¿Cómo?
John, please.
Por favor, John.
I'm sorry. Maybe at the final the workshop, he talked about the dome and communication line in the dome.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.